Here we go, people. Welcome to another episode of TFR Talk Live with Crazy D. We want to welcome you today to this episode. This finds us not in the best of spirits after what's taking place in the Supreme Court, but we're going to work through it and talk about how you can help your own plight and boycott Comcast. Right? If you want to call in, there's no call-ins. If you want to call in, because we're just doing this off the fly here, checking it out. Listen, how to boycott protest Comcast before November 13, 2019. The Supreme Court of the U.S. Is hearing the 1866 Civil Rights Act. The Comcast is trying to basically gut this law which protects Black Americans. It was first proposed in 1865 and passed, but President Johnson at the time, Andrew Johnson, vetoed it, and then the following year, the Congress and Senate voted. They had a 2/3 majority to override the veto, right? So it was vetoed, but then the veto was overruled, and then it was signed into law, but it didn't get ratified until 1870. So you see, there's always a delay in the justice for Black Americans in this country, right? So how to boycott, protest Comcast before November 13, 2019, SCOTUS hearing on 1866 Civil Rights Act. There is something that can be done. People can cut Comcast from their monthly bills. It's simple to do. So how will we go about boycotting Comcast? Well, it's very simple. It's easy to do, but it just takes being just a little uncomfortable, but at the same time pushing forward, right? So number one way to boycott Comcast, right? Purchase a smart TV with Roku on it. Roku allows the owner to access the channels they want to watch, beautiful image, and great sound. This is not an endorsement, but Roku is a solution. 2. For protest, cut Comcast out altogether or keep the internet to drive smart TV. It will cut the Comcast bill by more than half. All it takes is a call to your Comcast, Cox, Charter, Spectrum, cable provider. Number 3. Cutting that much money from Comcast, more than half, will cause the company problems. And when money is lost, corporations come to the table. In the case, dropping their interest in gutting the 1866 Civil Rights Act. That's right. In this case, they will drop their interest in gutting the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Number 4. I don't think people who say it's in SCOTUS hands really realize what gutting the act would do to everyday life for Black Americans and sooner than later, Black body snatchers. Number 5. It only takes people cutting Comcast revenue by more than half to stop this. And once people experience cutting the cable, they won't go back. 6. Calling for the ouster of CEO, CEF, and COO, along with dropping the challenge to the Civil Rights Act of 1866, is the goal to be achieved in the next few days we have. Number 7. Black people in America don't come from quitters. If we did, we wouldn't be here today. Number 8. So miss me with there is nothing we can do. The question is, do some of us have the will to do it? Do our children and the next generations matter more than our comfort? I've cut the cable. It's up to the many to do the same. Number 9. It's about solutions, not only talking and complaining. So you see, people, that is a clear-cut plan on how to boycott Comcast before November 13th so they can be hit in the pockets. And once again, once people start to watch Roku Smart TV and they see they can choose the channels that they want and their bill isn't as high and the picture and the sound quality is 4K and better, people will never go back. So that will be a major hit to Comcast, what they deserve for trying to take black people's rights away. Now, how did all this come up? Many people might not know how this came up, right? And how the Harriet movie is involved in it. The Harriet movie is involved because Comcast, through one of its companies, distributes Harriet, right? And Harriet, we've talked about that. That's trash. You can see our review on that on the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society, episode 83. You can see and listen to the review on all podcast providers and on YouTube. How this all came about. Byron Allen is a station owner, studio owner, who wanted to get into having his channels distributed across Comcast and other outlets, right? But what he found was Comcast CEO and Comcast in general were pretty much against the idea, basically giving pennies to black-owned stations or making them have to buy advertisement to stay afloat, to be able to pay to be on these different providers, right? So they had to sell advertisement, right? And so he said the majority of the people who are watching through Comcast, who have Comcast and their competitors, Warner, etc., we named some of the others earlier in the written piece, they have a majority black audience purchasing the product, the cable lines, right? The cable service, but they barely have any black-owned production houses producing something that's going across the Comcast airwave. Instead, they deal with programming that is targeted towards black people, right? But not programming that is produced by black people. And you can read more about that or listen to more of Byron Allen on The Breakfast Club, where he was interviewed. You can check that out. But the main point is, he won in the Ninth Circuit Appellate Court, and Comcast he used the 1866 Civil Rights Act, Section 1981, to win the case in the Ninth Circuit. Comcast took it to the Supreme Court because they didn't want to lose, and Byron Allen explains that more on the Griot. You will see that on YouTube too. He explains that more on the Griot. So they didn't want to lose because they would have to open up all that paperwork. He explains that more. So they took it to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court saw that Byron Allen's argument was valid, and they chose not to hear that, but they chose to hear the 1866 Civil Rights Act. They wanted to delve into that. And the standard that Comcast is arguing is that how can that people have to prove beyond 100% of a doubt that they were discriminated against because of race, and that is an unobtainable proof to prove. And if the Supreme Court agrees and then guts the 1866 Civil Rights Act, then that puts black people back to 1865, just after being freed from slavery. That means no rights, no land, no rights in the court of law, not able to draw up contracts, etc. Puts us back there. So that's why it is very important to get out here and show Comcast that they can't succeed in doing what they're doing. We have to hit them in their pockets, and not only have them drop the 1866 Civil Rights Act, assailing the 1866 Civil Rights Act, the first act that everything else is based on, but also we have to call for the ouster of the Comcast CEO, CFO, and COO, including them not receiving a severance package, all that, So that is what's happening right now, and that's what we're talking about today. One of the topics that we're talking about today, right? And like I said, it's not an endorsement, but it's easy to start this boycott within these next few days that we have, right? Today is the 8th. The situation in the Supreme Court happens on the 13th. Roku, through the smart TV, you can choose the channels you want to watch. Like, we watched Power, and we had cut cable, and we were able to watch Power on Stars. And then, you pick the channels you want, and you watch the programming that you want, and it's cheaper than paying for cable. All right? So, cut the cable bill, right? And cut Comcast. Boycott Comcast. I wrote a piece to Rachel Maddow the other day, and I was asking her, how come, you talked about the sexual abuse that was happening at NBC that was written about in a book called Catch and Kill. So, and you want to keep MSNBC, NBC credible. Well, how come you're not talking about this, which is very important to a whole group of people in the United States of America, right? Why aren't you talking about this? That would be something that is detrimental to those who it affects, and in the long run, it will then affect the lives of many more people because of the fact that all civil rights are hinged upon the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Everything springboards from that, right? So why wouldn't you make sure that this is protect it, and by bringing it to the attention of the masses of people. That is where we're at as far as that's concerned. Like, why wouldn't you bring it to the masses of people? Not that, you know, they would ever really be able to do anything about it. It's something that we have to fight as a group of people, as Black Americans in this country, right? It's something that we have to fight. But being that a majority, or let me just say many, not a majority, but many of us get our news from off of the cable networks. So why isn't the cable network, various cable networks, not only MSNBC, but CNN and others, why haven't they started to discuss this? And why does it seem like it's a plan to discuss it closer to a couple of days before this case is presented to the Supreme Court of the United States of America? It seems silly that this is not on the forefront of what's going on, right? So, I mean, this is what is disheartening about this whole situation, is people are sitting around, or it appears that they're just sitting around totally ignoring this. Like, people really don't seem to understand what it would be like if this law is reversed. Maybe you should take a look at some of the just before the end of slavery, the photos of people who were once enslaved. Or go back and read some of the accounts of W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and immigrant to this country that tried to start a movement but was deported later, Marcus Garvey, right? We should look at what they had to say, and then look at the people who came under them, who came of age, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, etc. Look at what these men and the women, Ida B. Wells, Sojourner Truth, the actual Harriet Tubman, who actually lived into the 20th century, right? Find out what these people actually had to say. And then you'll see why this is not something to play around with. You shouldn't, if you do believe that because you're an invaluable asset to the company, they'll just say, here, we want you to train these 5 people to do what you do. And then after you train them, you know how that is, right? Then you're out and they're in and they're getting done what they wanted to do. So this is going to show you who's who. And really, I wouldn't want to be under the foot of people asking them for their kindness, because we can look at what people do with the homeless and see that the kindness is really not there, because people don't want to see you when you're down. They only want to see you when you're up. So it is very important that we, as a group of people, for many different reasons, I just gave a couple, many different reasons why we have to find our way out of this situation and stop playing games with these people, right? I mean, it's very important that we stop playing games and realize what's really going on and push. Make sure that you press and give a donation, because what we talk about on TFR Talk Live with your host, yours truly, me, Crazy D, is very important information that we talk. Is many times life or death. Like we talked about the mysterious lung disease that's happening from vaping. That's up to watch. And, you know, I'm taking more of a approach of calmness on this, but really I'm ringing the alarm because this right here is something that um, let me just say it's something that none of us want to really see. As I type this in and spread this on Facebook, you'll be able to see it in a few seconds. November 13th, 2019. All right, so the title I just put on Facebook is The Gutting of the Civil Rights Act. SCOTUS hears the Civil Rights Act of 1866, November 13, 2019. Here's how to boycott Comcast. All right, so we're going to put that through right now so people can do what they do. Make sure that you donate to us, people, because the information that we're putting out is very, very important. It's something that is, if done against us, will set us back. Does anyone understand the history, really? When they really look at the history of what's going on in America, you know, his story in America, all they do as we're getting close to getting to take our rightful place in this country from all the work that we've done, they just find a way to set us back another 100 years. Now that's facts. They find another way to set us back 100 years. And when we're set back 100 years, right? We're constantly on the hamster wheel, having to fight our way from out of this situation, right? From out of various situations of situations that we thought previously resolved or had taken care of. They constantly find a way to keep us. They find a way to keep us in a constant state of aggravation, right? And keep us unsettled. Keep our eyes off the prize, right? So this is what it is, right? So make sure, people, that you donate to us. It's easy to do. When you click over to YouTube, you'll see support the stream in the writing, and you click there and you're able to donate to us, right? You can donate what you like, starting at $1. Make sure you donate to us, and you know it'll come across the screen, and we do appreciate you and you donating to us. So this situation with the 1866 Civil Rights Act being gutted is something that many of us saw coming, right? And we always screamed, work together let's work together with each other because it's guaranteed. See, you can't change the hearts of people. You can only amend their actions. And how do you amend their actions? Is through law. But when there's a constant drumbeat of trying to dismantle laws so that we will not be able to succeed as black people in America, as some people call us ADOS, some people call us foundational black Americans. I always called it African style beings in America, meaning that we're not just from Africa because we built this boy, so we're African style because our culture is different than that of various African countries. And the various African countries don't get along, so how would you think that we would pick one culture and be that from Africa when we made our own culture here? So we're African style, right? So make sure that you donate to us. You know, when you click on to the YouTube and you're listening to us, make sure that you click support the stream, and you click right there, and then you're able to donate to us. We have a goal because Crazy D is looking to increase and get more equipment because he's coming with more scripted pieces, and this is the goal that we're setting right now. So make sure that you donate to us. Make sure you leave your comments in and we'll read them over the air, right? So that's what's going on with that, right? The Civil Rights Act of 1866, Comcast is challenging it, basically, in my opinion, over greed. They want to keep producing black targeted programming, but don't want to pay for black produced programming for, by, and created to bring the counter narrative that has been painted about black people in America. So in other words, we want to bring some entertaining but yet informative programming that's not too preachy, that can be a counterbalance. So you need all kinds, right? But you need a counterbalance to balance out so that we can see positive images of ourselves, right? And so that's what it is. So let's go back through one more time before we move on to the next subject. Let's go back through one more time on how you can boycott Comcast, the cable operator, the cable outlet that refuses to purchase and pay for black-owned stations to be broadcast through their cable lines, right? How you can boycott them because they're going so far as to take away our freedom, take away our free, so they won't have to pay for that. And there will never be another Bob Johnson and another Byron Allen, right? So how you can go about boycotting Comcast and other cable outlets like them, because it's not just them that's not accepting black-owned channels, stations with original black programming that shows the diaspora of what the black experience is. It's not just them, but it's the others that I also mentioned, right? It's not just them. So they're just the ones who took it to the Supreme Court, but you can best believe that the others are rooting also that this will set us back 100 years as we battle to get back to just this time that we have all the strides that we have accomplished and battle back to the future to get to just this time that we have all the advancements that we have achieved will be turned around with a stroke of a pen by, in other words, through the ruling of the Supreme Court, right? So this is what's happening, right? And how to boycott. Let's go through it again. How to boycott protest Comcast before November 13th, 2019. SCOTUS hearing on 1866 Civil Rights Act. There is something that can be done. People can cut Comcast from their monthly bills. It's simple to do. Number one, purchase a smart TV with a Roku on it. Roku allows the owner to access the channels they want to watch, beautiful image, and great sound. This is not an endorsement, but Roku is a solution. Number two, for protest, cut Comcast out altogether or keep the internet to drive smart TV. It will cut the Comcast bill by more than half. All it takes is a call to your Comcast, Cox, Charter, Spectrum cable provider. 3. Cutting that much money from Comcast, more than half, will cause the company problems. And when money is lost, corporations come to the table. In this case, dropping their interest in gutting the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Number 4. I don't think people who say it's in SCOTUS' hands really realize what gutting the act would do to everyday life of black Americans and sooner than later black body snatchers. 5. It only takes people cutting Comcast revenue by more than half to stop this. And once people experience cutting the cable, they won't go back. Number 6. Calling for the ouster of the CEO, CFO, and COO, along with dropping the challenge to the Civil Rights Act of 1866 is the goal to be achieved in the next few days we have. Number 7. Black people in America don't come from quitters. If we did, we wouldn't be here today. Number 8. So miss me with that, there is nothing we can do. The question is, do some of us have the will to do it? Do our children and the next generations matter more than our comfort? I've cut the cable. It's up to the many to do the same. Number 9, it's about solutions, not only talking and complaining. So you see, people, there's a way to do this. Make sure that you copy this, share this, send this out to the people, because it's coming around the crunch time and this can easily be done. It's almost as if it would be a silent protest, but they would see their budgets go down, their revenue go down, and their cost of operation go up because they don't have the money to cover the cost of operation. Do you see how this works, people? And their budgets will go out of whack, and they will say, why is this done? And they will see that a boycott was started to hit them in the pockets, and they will say, you know what, that's not worth it. And maybe the CEO was had a little too much hubris and should be relieved of his duty The CFO should be relieved of his or her duty. The COO should be relieved of his or her duty and replaced with people who would never want to touch the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Here's the killer, people, about them taking this to the Supreme Court. The Trump administration has written a amicus brief, and and Comcast is allowing 10 minutes for the DOJ to speak on behalf of Comcast on why the 1866 Civil Rights Act Civil Rights Act should be amended, basically gutted to where we have no rights and we're put back to 1866. Isn't that something? That's really something when you think about it. All of this was foreshadowed and written about years ago, but many of us chose to play around and believe that everything was a kumbaya party when it really isn't, right? And we're not going to get into talking about what the cause of this is. What we're talking about is what the solution is and how we can save ourselves from this this situation, right? How we can save ourselves, right? So that's what we're talking about here, right? And so that's very important to our future in America, and not having to have to battle back another 100 years. Like, if people read history, they know American history, then they know that 1865 we were free, and we were elected to office, and for the first 7 years it was all good, but then there was some back office dealings on Capitol Hill, and next thing you know, Jim Crow and separate but equal was instituted, which gave the 100 years from 1865 all the way up to today, all the way up to 1965, right? That was the 100 years of the nadir. Look that up, the nadir. But so from 1865's original Civil Rights Act, it was 100 years, and it kept us back 100 years because they found ways to keep us from accessing fair housing, honoring contracts, etc., etc. So there was 100 years of that, right? And so what they want to do is do another 100 years of that. You see, where we have to battle back to where we are and what we've done today, to this date, in this country, under circumstances that no other group of people could have been able to succeed under. People were wiped out under those circumstances, but black people were not. And so we have to be on the same page on this. This is very important. I'm staying calm, like I said, but I'm really ringing the alarm on this, because this will be more than detrimental to us. It can be and will be a deadly situation, right? And so when laws are stripped away, then that means voting is stripped away. That means all these other things. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it because this is the way it is. So think of what it is, what it's like now, and having what you have stripped away from you because there is no law to protect you. And now you know exactly how serious this is and why you need to pass this along and make sure that people go out this weekend and start to execute this boycott. It's extremely important to the next generation and to your way of life right now. If you can't think of of your children and the next generation, think of your way of life now, and think of your way of life being interrupted the way it is. Think of it being like it was back before. All you had to do is just Google the pictures. It used to be so much harder. We would have to go to the library. We had to go try to find the black book. All right? But now all of that is over the internet and you can see it. You can understand what eugenics is. You can Google it and read it for yourself. You can see what white supremacy racism is and what it's based on. You can read that. You don't have to go to the library and use the Dewey Decimal System to find the books or search through microfiche of old magazine and newspaper articles, because now it's all up on the net for you. You don't have to go through all that. So now you can find out the truth so much easier and, begin to execute. But first, what we have to do is execute this boycott and let it be known that this is why it's being done. Right? So, boycott of Comcast. Grab this video, pass it along. Now, people, as we move on to our next piece of business here, as I bring this up wider so that we can do it, as we transition onto this. Now, look, people, let me drop this down real quick. Let me drop this down. All right, people. Right here is the new map that just came up. I keep my stats moving, right? I keep my stats up to date. So here we are. This is the map, right? And you see all of the different countries that are sitting there that are watching us, right? And listening to us on our podcast called The Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, and Society. We have the United States, we have Canada, United Kingdom, Belgium, Netherlands, Italy, Germany, Poland, Sweden, Turkey, Iraq, Egypt, Ethiopia, Malawi, Pakistan, India, Australia. And this is an old map. When I first put this display together, Spain hadn't come up. Spain is hot as the United States in dark blue. They're really listening. If you didn't know, there are a lot of black Spaniards that would listen to the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, and Society, right? And so we also have the Czech Republic lit up as of this map, after this map here. And so we will be bringing you updates about that. So you definitely want to stay abreast, and those who have businesses, make sure you get in contact with me. You can contact me at lordlandenterprises@hotmail.com. That's lordlandenterprises@hotmail.com. And we'll have you hot in America and Spain and Canada and all the different countries that we're being heard. And of course, we want to light this. We want to light the globe up. We want to light the map up. So make sure that everyone listens and takes in what we're talking about and what we're putting across to you, right? So of course, also, we want to let you know that the Film Review Showcase is there. You're an independent filmmaker. You want your film reviewed. Positive or negative reviews, either one gets your film seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. Of course, this service from the Film Review is not free. It is not. You have to start thinking about what you do as far as your promotions and marketing budget, right? So when you send your film in for us on a secure screener for us to watch, right? and for us to set up a time to review your film, a date in the future on the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, and Society, and where you're interviewed. This is an opportunity for you to be interviewed, your film to be reviewed on a podcast that's heard on all the major podcast providers, including iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, uh, Google Play, Spotify, and more coming. But also, it can be heard on Podcast Addict for those who are Android driven. That is an Android based podcast service where you can listen to your favorite podcast. All you have to do is just Google the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, and Society, or search it on those various podcast providers, and it will come up and you can listen to our reviews. We are globally heard. So you have to start thinking of promoting your film to get eyes on it. And so that's where the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, and Society comes in, because the TFR Showcase affords you those eyeballs. We're not going to show your film, but we are going to review your film and interview you about your film. And you will love it and you will appreciate it. But again, this service is not free. So what you see on the screen is what I detailed to you, and you can easily go to our PayPal at lordlandenterprises@hotmail.com on PayPal. Submit your fee, then go to your email and type in lordlandenterprises@hotmail.com. Send us a snapshot from off your phone of proof of you submitting the funds, and send us your bio and a secure screener of your film. And that's as easy as it is, and we will schedule a date for you to come on one of our Sunday broadcasts, and right afterwards we will review your film, and you will be able to have this review to take to people and you say, we were on the Film Review Showcase, right? So that's what we have to say about that. And believe me, you will be seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. You know, seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. And again, this is the map of our coverage, right? So, like we talked about the 1866 Civil Rights Act and the challenge by Comcast is happening on November 13th, 2019. We've told you about that, and we told you that there were a group of people who were always fighting to make sure they had independent media, black media. And here we are to make sure that you're seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. And we don't just review black films, we review all films, because we're not like the haters. All right? So people, that's it for right now. This has been another installment of the Film Review Talk Live, TFR Talk Live, with your host, Crazy D. Hope you like the new format that we did, because, you know, we're doing something new, and we're making sure that it's new and it's fresh and a new look. And you see me, Crazy D, yeah. Anyway, so people, get on the boycott. Get on this boycott ASAP. Because if we don't get on this boycott, we're going to be seeing some things that we don't want to see, or we thought that we wouldn't see, or a whole 2 generations haven't seen. You know? Well, I'll say 1 generation hasn't seen. But we will see it. And Some people don't even have the language for this yet. And that's the strange part. So, people, we're out. We'll see you next time on the Film Review Talk Live with Crazy D.